Welcome everyone again to the Semaphore Music Festival Podcast, where we bring you in-depth conversations with some of the incredible artists gracing the stages at this year's festival, the 20th anniversary of the Semaphore Music Festival. And I've been waiting for this one, folks. Today we have the one and only Lachy Doley. I mean, this is a man who's been described by Glenn Hughes from Deep Purple as the best keyboard player in the world. I mean, known as the Jimi Hendrix of the Hammond organ. He's played alongside Australian legends like Powderfinger and Jimmy Barnes, and his own family as well. They're all legends. And the dynamic performances, if you've not seen this side perform, put it in your calendar at Semaphore for sure, because it gets not only attention in Australia, but all around the world. He's just flown back in from Ireland this morning, kept him up. He's been a champion. He's going to power on. So we're thrilled to have the one and only Lachy Doley with us here today. Lachy, welcome home back to Australia, and thanks for your time today.
Oh, my pleasure. Yeah, it's good to be back. It was just a quick visit, but yeah, the jet lag is definitely real though.
A Guinness or two on the way there or way home?
I did have a few Guinnesses while I was there. Yeah, definitely made the point of testing the theory that the Guinnesses taste better over in Ireland. So
yes, true. They say when in Rome.
Yes, so I had to check that thoroughly and do my proper research while I was there.
Fantastic.
And it's true.
I want to step back to, where did you and the Hammond organ meet? Do you remember where your affinity came from when you first thought about it?
Oh, absolutely, most definitely. I remember being a young teenager, and my older brother Clayton, was starting to play around with the organ sound for some gigs that he had, and then I'm not sure. I think it was a guy, Brian Morrison, brought around a Hammond organ with a Leslie to the house, and we set it up in the shed. And I just remember first looking at it going, what is this crazy thing? But what I really remember is when I sat behind it and I just like brushed my hand along it, and it was so loud and so powerful. And then just hitting that high note, and it just like screaming, and I remember that it sounded amazing as well. It was like, it wasn't a bad sound. It was like the most incredibly kind of powerful, and then sort of filling up the room through the Leslie as well. It was, it was something that you certainly couldn't do on the piano.
I read someone described it as, it's the organ equivalent of when you make the deal with the devil, like Robert Johnson did. It just has that, it connects with your soul straight away, and I've just done a very dangerous thing. I've just went and invested a large amount of money on, all the Jimmy Smith reissues on vinyl and so on. And like
fantastic.
And because the second you're going to drop the needle, or the second your fingers touch the keys, it infects your soul almost, doesn't it? And I've seen you, and I've seen your brother perform. You fuse with this instrument, I've never seen that, and even guitarists sometimes struggle with that. But you and the instrument seem to become one. Is that something where you feel it running through your bones and through your veins and through your soul and your spirit?
Absolutely. Especially a sound like that, and the way a keyboard like that plays. It doesn't matter what instrument you get on, the sound that's coming back at you is always changes the way you play, and you feel it differently. And certain things sound great on some keyboards and not so much on other things. And when I got onto the organ, and that sound, it was instantly like, it was just so different to playing the piano, but so powerful. And then it was like, oh, what works here? And that's, and it just goes into you and fills your heart and also your mind with ideas. And I remember it just being thrilling, and it still is. And I'm still finding new things I can do with that, with the sound of the organ, and simply because it's so, it's so what's the word? Infectious. Yeah.
Infectious.
Infectious, you just take it in, and it's inspiring still.
Yeah. You mentioned your brother before and yourself. What were your musical influences as a family growing up? Did mum or dad have an interest in music, or did they play music? I always try and think back to dad's vinyl on the floor, looking at some of the big old massive record player and so on. What were you guys as a family like? What were your musical influences?
Well, on my mum's side, as far as the vinyl collection would go, it was ABBA and Dr. Hook, I remember, were the vinyls she was throwing around. But she was going out with this blues guitar player called Barry, and he was often jamming around the house on his guitar, and he had all these records that ended up in the house, like all the Muddy Waters and Elmore James and Johnny Hooker, and so his record collection very much influenced Clayton and I, and all the piano players on those great albums, Otis Spann, Pinetop Perkins, and we basically were just trying to copy what they were doing just by ear, just off these records and cassettes, and then jamming with Barry at the same time. So yeah, that's where those influences came from, and then eventually people started introducing us to Hammond organ music after that as well, and then it just kept on sort of evolving from there.
It's a funny thing, like how we talk, people talk about the formative years of children and teenagers and so on, and so many people get influenced, whether it be the wrong way of life, drugs or alcohol, or smoking or drinking and so on, or gambling, or whatever it might be, or just the wrong social group. Those of us who have been brought up around music have such a fond memory of it, don't we? And it's such an integral part of our lives growing up. And, I can always remember coming to blues and country music when Nirvana came out, because I didn't get Nirvana, but it came back because my bedroom as a child was next door to where the record player was. My dad and his brothers were there 5 nights a week singing along, and all of a sudden my uncle was kind enough to give me his record collection the night before my HSC, so have a guess what happened then. So, but, what is it about music, do you think, that is so internationally, where it starts with family sometimes, and then say Barry, who you met and played with and jammed with and shared his record, but then it also extends into community of an audience, doesn't it? Which become almost like a family as well. Is that something you've experienced on your touring, not just in Australia, but also around the world?
Yeah. Well, I think music, especially those younger years, is so influential, and if something speaks to you, if some kind of music speaks to you, it's impossible to not take that in and make it a part of you. And if you're around it enough, it becomes a real a real part of your whole being. That kind of music. That's what I remember it becoming, and it being very different to what my friends were listening to. And then as you say, like it does become a bit of a community in a way. You find these like-minded people that are not necessarily, the mainstream, and it can become a family of musicians, and you find that around the world. You find these pockets of people who like the same music as you, and have the same influences and into the same sort of stuff, and then that's a great way of connecting with people and bonding with people, because you do feel so strongly about the music that you were influenced by at a young age.
Yeah, that sense of community and so on, that's one of the great things we have. And we have a bit of a state of flux at the moment, don't we? You played on these massive festivals around Australia, and we're seeing a lot of the larger festivals. Very sadly, looks like we're going to bid farewell to Blues Fest next year, but a lot of these smaller festivals, like the Semaphore Festival and places like Woodford, or the National Folk Festival, or Cronulla Jazz and Blues Festival, they seem to be not so much even surviving, but thriving. What do you think? You've been around long enough, you've seen the landscape ebb and flow, I'm sure. What do you think it is about these smaller niche festivals that is making them still so popular?
Well, I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, when you think about blues fests, you would never say it's unpopular. Like even last year, it was still, tens and tens of thousands of people going through the gates. It's just, I think, the cost to put it on, with bringing all those international acts, and it being just such a massive logistical operation.
Yeah.
And I guess these other festivals, they're probably a little easier to put on, and funding, I guess, would be a part of it as well. But yeah, it is also, the community, like I think most festivals, plays a huge part of the longevity of any festival. And I think they're the ones that are in the best position to get through if this is indeed a period where it's a bit tricky at the moment, and hopefully there's a light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
It's they seem to be the strongest festivals, the ones that have the biggest communities ingrained in them, and you see the same faces every year, and it just keeps growing. So this will be the first time doing Semaphore, so I'm extremely excited to come down and do that on the main stage down there on the water.
So we've got you Sunday, 6th of October at the Semaphore Foreshore Reserve, and that's going to be at where I'm looking at 5 p.m. What can we expect from you? Are you bringing a band with yourself or a trio? What's the format?
I am, yeah. So I'm bringing the whole trio down. So we've got Joel Burton on bass and Jackie Barnes on drums. They're generally the band I tour with. They've done most of the touring, and especially all over the US earlier this year and Europe last year. So that's going to be fantastic. It's been it's probably been almost a month since we played, or a couple of weeks. Yeah, so definitely itching to get out there again. It's going to be the usual madness, the usual wildness. Going to have the Hammond organ screaming and the whammy clap going off, and there's going to be highs and lows and fast and slows.
I spoke with Ellie Mae Barnes a few months ago, and lead up to Cronulla Jazz and Blues Fest, and I was telling her I got in trouble when I was in school because of her and her brother. I said, why? And I said, well, you had to think, who do you want to be when you grow up? And I wrote down, I want to be the Tin Lids. How about Jimmy Barnes' kids? And Ellie Mae said, who do you want to be? And I said, Jackie, of course. And she got a bit put off by that. But I think, ever tempted to throw in a Tin Lids cover, like, Merry Christmas or dinosaur songs? I mean, to rev him up a little bit?
No, never.
Thankfully, he's not as wild as the old man was at his same age. Jackie's a great player and so on. And again, I mean, that's that family legacy. You played with Jim, and you played with Jackie and Harley as well, and so on. I mean, I call them the Von Trapps, the family, the Australian music industry, and what they did. And I'm not sure if you were part of it when that thing locked down, where they would just get together every night and play.
Oh, that's right.
I spoke to Jim and Jane once, and I said, you don't know, for those of us who were in lockdown, I was in lockdown by myself for a period. Went so much. There was a way to connect with family and friends and music every night. It was fantastic, and I really think that was a fantastic thing. So hopefully, Jackie's, as I said, not as wild as the old man, especially at Semaphore, a nice little community. But what is it about? You have this rich emotion and this energy, when you're on stage and so on. Is there a process you have to get into, or it's just the second your fingers hit the keys, or what's your lead up to it?
It's definitely the second I hit the stage. Yeah, it's all on. It's hard to explain. I think every essence of my being wants to put on the best possible show I can. And it doesn't matter how tired I am or what kind of mood I'm in. As soon as I hit the stage, I'm definitely not thinking about anything else other than just making sure that this is just great, and everyone is forgetting their troubles for a while and just having a great time. And usually, even if I am tired or not really feeling up to it, that feeling's gone pretty quickly, and you just get swept up in the moment. And when I'm jumping around and exerting as much energy as I am on stage, it just all falls in place, and I'm forgetting my troubles as well.
And the best part about it is too, if you look on the screen behind us here, both you and Clayton, both of you have the best hair in blues and rock music in Australia. But then you have these fantastic facial expressions. I couldn't resist putting this one on the screen behind me. These fantastic facial expressions, but I think it's actually very real, and I think that's why it works, because the show's real, because your music's real, because you're real and very authentic as an artist, and you're lending yourself wholly and solely. We've all been to those shows where you can see the artist is just not into it. But every time I was singing, you come on stage and it's just like, it's almost like that James Brown effect where they take the cape off and then it's on, But I want to ask, Lachy, does that have an after effect when you come off stage? You have such energy, but you must have trouble sometimes coming down from that energy to calm down, to relax. I know Bob Seger used to have a similar problem. Didn't help he was on cocaine, but it's Bob Seger has a similar problem, and I spent some time with John Bon Jovi once, and he said he has to get on a treadmill after the big shows just to push that energy out straight after the show. Is that something you have to, I suppose, educate yourself and learn and cultivate for yourself?
It can be tricky at times, especially because a lot of the time I have to come off stage and, well, it all depends. Sometimes I'll have to quickly come off stage, back on again, and pack up as fast as I can, and get it off before another band comes on. That can always be a bit strange. But then other times I have to come off and just rush straight to the merch tent as well, and then I'm taking photos and talking to people, and I'm all puffed out, and yes, I don't get much time to think about it. Quite honestly, I would love to have a little bit more downtime as soon as we come off, but yeah, that's not always possible. So sometimes the show just sort of keeps going, or the energy keeps going afterwards, because I mean, I've quickly got to get all this stuff done, and then I've got to meet everyone and say hello for half an hour, and then after that it's sort of like oh, and then you can have a beer, and so quite often the show isn't even finished when the once the music
you're quite
stops.
right there. I was listening to an interview last night with podcast last night with Brooks and Dunn, American country singers, and I was saying, you've got to do the show, and then the merch stand thing is almost like a job interview. You've got to be on your best behavior, and you can't say anything, and it's almost like you've got to do a second show at the merch stand and some, because that makes up such an integral part of your industry now, doesn't it?
It really is
the way we connect.
It is. It's one of the best ways to connect with the fans, and especially new people as well who haven't seen you before. It's really great to make that connection with them, and you have to do it. I think as an independent artist, you can't afford not to. I mean, we're all just scraping by as it is. So even not making it to the merch tent, making it to the merch tent, say 5 minutes after you finish, could cost you, hundreds of dollars. Just straight out there. But it's all, it's a tricky one. That.
Do you get much of a chance then? You get to festivals like the Semaphore Music Festival, which you said you're coming up on Sunday, 6th of October. Do you get much of a chance yourself at these types of festivals to be the fan for a moment, to go around and see other acts at all, or is it just full on from go to work?
Often there is, I think these smaller ones probably lend themselves to being able to do that a little more. I mean, I'm going to be checking Stefan out. Of course, he's one of my good friends, and one of the greatest guitar players Australia has produced. But it's often different. It depends, and also it depends how tired you are and how much stuff you've got to set up and how much traveling you've done. But I like to be able to see as much music as I can. And generally, I prefer to do it once I've already played myself, because because before the show, it's hard to get out of that mindset of, oh my gosh, I've got a show to do and I've got to make sure I've got everything, all my ducks in a row, and I mean, all my gear's here and everything's working and everyone has arrived, and
It's a bit like sitting for an exam. You sit for the exam, then you just go and relax.
Yeah, exactly.
Mate, thanks so much for your time. The last question, same question we ask for everyone here on the podcast. What's it feel like to be Lachy Doley when you walk out on stage?
Sometimes it feels like unbelievable, literally unbelievable. Especially some of those shows in the US earlier this year, where I put on, where it was a big lead up to this tour, and a lot of things went into it to make it work, and the fans took a leap of faith to make it work as well by purchasing tickets to shows that didn't have a date or a venue yet, and so it was a very big thing to make happen. And when I went out on stage on some of those, particularly the 3 gigs of that tour that were made that way, the response from the audience was just overwhelming. It was insane. It was like, you
must pinch yourself regularly, I reckon.
It was actually ridiculous. I teared up actually at the in the New York one, the first one. So I simply just couldn't believe it. It was happening, and the response I was getting just from simply walking out on stage, and it finally coming to fruition was, amazing. But it's not always like that.
No.
But that was particularly memorable, though.
Fantastic. Well, I'm sure we're going to have a memorable experience with you at the Semaphore Music Festival, October 6th, at the Semaphore Foreshore Reserve. Lachy Doley and his band, fantastic band. If you have not seen this man and his band before, clear your diaries, clear your schedules. Don't worry about watching the football. Who cares? Go and watch this band. It's a life experience. And his latest single is Downtown Small Town. It's been recorded live in Paris, which we snuck this fantastic cover art off. Current album is A World Worth Fighting For. Get them on his social medias. He does a great job on his social media. You can get through his website as well. Like, follow, and subscribe him on social media. And while you're there, like and follow, subscribe to the Semaphore Music Festival podcast to show your support for this amazing festival as we head into October long weekend. Lachy Doley, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you jumping on after your long flight from Ireland. Get some sleep, and we'll see you this weekend in Semaphore.
Yeah, I look forward to it. See you there and see everyone there. It's going to be wild.
Thanks, buddy.